Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the man whose inner monologue is delayed by 5 minutes, KC Onyebuchi.
How is it that I read the intros and I'm still not prepared for that? I didn't even catch that till you said it. Thanks, buddy.
You know, I have a special surprise for you. Tomorrow, I am going to do a video of me making coffee at work.
I hate you so much.
So you want to tell our listeners why I'm making coffee?
All right. So the thing is, I have this weird, irrational fear of being caught in public with the knowledge that I don't know how to make coffee. So I get stressed out at work because I want coffee real bad, but I don't want to be the last person to drink the coffee because that person has to make the next pot, and I still don't know how. So I just pretend that I really enjoy tea because I don't want to make coffee. And it's been, like, I've been in corporate America for over 10 years. At this point, you either do or don't know how to make coffee. So it's too late for me to learn.
Well, it's, I don't blame you because it is intimidating because the machine is not like your standard coffee machine. It's like this big industrial metal monster, and you've got this, what is it, a tanker that you put underneath it, and you like, it is intimidating. And so I can say that there was a moment whenever I finished the coffee at work, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I was fortunate.
Walk away.
I was fortunate that I was trained by someone else in the office to do it. So I am going to make a video for you of me doing it so that you can get that same benefit from me. But I realized
I'm just gonna have to date a barista. That's my next shot. Like,
so what's gonna happen though is that the machine that I'm going to video myself using is going to be vastly different.
That's the problem. Everyone kept posting on my Facebook like, oh, it's not that hard. It's like, oh, really? Because yours looks a lot easier than the one at my office. Like, I got to learn how to operate a freaking espresso machine. I don't understand this. I just want coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
Put a Keurig machine in there.
It only works. It only works if you're wearing a green apron.
My goodness. Oh, well. So there's that.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff to cover because I was gone last week. I was so sick last week that I didn't even publish last week's episode that you and John so gratefully, I don't know what to say, but you guys covered for me, nicely covered for me. I didn't even publish it, so I got to publish that. I got to publish the hour that we did on UFC 235 with George Stallworth. I got so much work to do that we got like 3 episodes going to drop this week.
Yeah, so we'll keep this one short and sweet to make it a little easier on your editing.
Right, but there's one more thing we got to talk about.
My hairline?
No, we got to talk about you getting dropped by Chris Camozzi.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that happened. I tried to put that out of my memory. Yeah, that happened.
So, it was what, Saturday? This past Saturday, I'm sitting there at home and I get this text message. I just sparred with Chris Camozzi before his next fight, and it was painful. So you got to tell me, man, what was it like fighting a true UFC fighter?
Well, it's crazy because as I like to name drop every week, I fight out of Factory X, and I mean it's just world class talent in there, and they're just really good guys. And most of the time I'm in there with another amateur like myself, but every now and again I'll get in there with a kickboxing champion or a true UFC vet like Chris Camozzi. And I've got some Roy Nelson habits, right? Like, so my thing is when we get in there sparring, I don't have cardio at all. I like to blame the altitude, but I've lived here for too long to do that. And so I just get into this habit of just staying on center line and throwing bombs. Well, when you get a guy like Chris Camozzi, who is a veteran and just as big, if not bigger than me, it did not end well for me at all. The man toyed with me for the entire round and just whipped me left and right. So I decided I was just going to take this tactic of I'm just going to leg kick him to death. And then it was as though he read my mind and he countered the kick before I even got it off the ground. I hate my life.
Oh, wow.
So apparently there's no crying in Muay Thai, but I'm changing that rule because You just want to curl up and be like, this is not the path in my life I should be taking.
All right. Well, it was a shocker on Saturday night from Wichita, Kansas, as Derrick the Black Beast Lewis sought to spoil the ascension of Junior Dos Santos to the heavyweight top 5. Some of our show favorites like Beneil Dariush and Nico Price were in action, and 2 rising welterweights in Elizeu, Zaleski, Dos Santos, and Curtis Millender wanted to see who was going to get a shot at the top 10 fighter. But before we go through all of that, let's get into the official decision.
The official decision.
This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights from this past weekend. That was UFC on ESPN Plus. What was it, 4? From Wichita, Lewis versus Dos Santos in the Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita, Kansas. There were 5 fights on the card. Beneil Dariush defeated Drew Dober via...
Absolute favorite.
Huh?
Your absolute favorite, Beneil Dariush.
I love Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush walks out to trash music. That's all I got to say.
I vehemently disagree. I like that.
We were supposed to look up what he walked out to this past week. But, in the past, he walked out to Michael Jackson, Walk With You. But in the wake of leaving Neverland, he's had to change his walkout music.
No, I mean, he changed it before that. I think at one time he did like a Hillsong in there.
Yeah, it was Broken Vessels.
That's my dude. And I like that he's like, look, I'm not going to compromise myself and do all this trash talk just for a title shot. I want to let my fighting show it. And in the way he had that armbar on Drew Dober, his fighting has shown that this dude is not something to be overlooked.
Well, and that was the thing. He talked about the fact that, he tried to fight and box with Drew Dober, and it just wasn't working. So he had to try something else. So submission worked well for him.
Indeed, it did.
In the next fight, Blagoy Ivanov defeated Ben Rothwell via unanimous decision. This was a highway robbery. If you go and just look at Blagoy Ivanov versus what Ben Rothwell looked like at the end of the fight, one of them looked like they had gotten into a car accident and didn't wear a seatbelt, and the other one looked like Ben Rothwell.
Well, I've learned more and more that some of that is just because fighters' faces swell differently. Like, you can't necessarily look at the results and base it on how the other fighter looks.
Well, perhaps not, but
scar tissue. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, still, the fight was very close. I would have given the fight to Ben Rothwell, but you can't.
I would have ruled it a no contest because there was a lot of starting and stopping in that last round. Like,
it was a heavyweight fight. It was a heavyweight fight. Heavyweight fight should be 2 rounds anyway.
Oh, you know what? That's crazy, but it makes sense because these guys have no tank.
There's no tank. So
I can relate. That's why I'm never dropping down to light heavyweight.
So the next fight was
nasty.
Nico Price defeated Tim Means via TKO strikes at 4:50 of round 1, but he did more damage than just punched him in the face.
I liked it. This was a really good slugfest in there. There was some good fighting going on in that.
All right. So while we were talking, I decided to look up Beneil Dariush and what he walked out to in Wichita, and he walked out to "Still Rolling Stones" by Lauren Daigle.
Oh, I love Lauren Daigle. Oh, we talked about this before.
I think this has become his new song. Because I remember us talking about Lauren Daigle after the Broken Vessels, so I think he's started to solidify on this now.
Yeah, I remember saying that her new album is fire, which I'm going to walk back a little bit. It's all right, it's solid.
Okay, my point is, it's still garbage for a walkout song. Her album could be great. It could be nice, easy listening. You can drive to work to it. You can worship the Lord in it. I don't care. You don't walk out to the ring to beat somebody up and grab their arm and submit them listening to it. Drew Dober, on the other hand, walked out to Montel Jordan. This is how we do it.
How'd that work out for him?
It did not work out very well, but I respect his musical choice.
I was like, all right, you win the fan vote, but you got rocked.
You win the fan vote, but we vote by electoral college. So Tim Means got defeated by TKO, but went down on his leg and broke his tibia and ankle.
Yuck.
And it was gross. I mean, you can go out there, search for Nico Price versus Tim Means broken ankle, and you see the separation. It is grotesque. I can't look at it.
Stomach hurts as you're describing this right now.
I can't look at it. This was like when Anderson Silva broke his leg. Like, I could look at it the very first time,
and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, I still can't watch that clip.
Yeah, I don't.
That's insult to injury. Like, imagine getting TKO'd and then breaking something. Like, no,
yeah. No,
he wasn't ready.
In the co-main event, Elizeu Zaleski Dos Santos defeated Curtis Millender via submission, rear naked choke in round 1. This was one of those. This reminded me of Damian Maia so much, where it was you have a pure striker going up against an elite Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist, and they just walk over, they grab you, they take you down, and then they do the anaconda thing. Next thing you know, they're on your back, and then they're choking you. And he was doing palm to palm rear naked choke. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I like those matchups. But when you don't know how to defend jiu-jitsu at all, it gets boring real quick. Like, congratulations, you're good at jiu-jitsu, but can you show us some other skills real quick?
Hey, man, go with what works. I mean, if you know jiu-jitsu at an elite level, that makes you the most dangerous welterweight in the world.
Don't do it.
I done did it. I was setting up for that, right? I was like,
I didn't catch it till it's too late. I was like, oh, I hate you. For those who don't know, Ryan is the worst at determining who is the most dangerous fighter ever.
Well, yeah, because, you said that I was wrong, that clearly Tyron Woodley was his most dangerous welterweight, and we saw how that worked out.
Wait, hold on. You can't do that. Like, years later, you can't say, oh, well, he lost after 7 fights, so clearly he's no longer the baddest.
He's no longer the baddest. I mean, this is a callback to last week. This is a callback to last week, but man, I never got to weigh in on it. Kamaru Usman. I've been saying his name wrong for many, many, many moons. Kamaru Usman whooped Tyron Woodley.
I can't argue with that. It's tough for me because I am a big fan of both fighters, and I'm not a bandwagon Woodley guy. I've liked him from way back when, just because of his background wrestling at Missouri.
I vouch for that.
So, like, I still think he's one of the baddest to ever do it. Never got his due, but Kamaru, man, it's clearly his time.
Yeah, and
I don't think we saw the same version of Woodley that we would normally see. And I mean, it's all in last week's episode, but it's clearly Kamaru's time. The dude is next level.
Yeah, I'm. You're going to get to hear me talk about how Tyron Woodley was head and shoulders better than Kamaru Usman in the recording that I did with George. But after the fact, I couldn't say anything other than the fact that this was something that Kamaru Usman fought for. And I know that this is kind of, he's a fighter, of course he fought for. No, but he never got the respect. He never got the fights he wanted. He always had to fight a guy lower than him, which really never did him any favors. And when you
all in the rankings,
yeah, and when he finally got a shot, he made good on it. And when he was the underdog coming into this fight against Tyron Woodley, he put on a show. And I can't, what can you say there? It's like, hell, now we know when you get 100% Kamaru Usman, that kind of stuff happens.
We still don't know if it was 100%. Maybe there's more in there.
Dude, Man, if that wasn't 100%,
that's just him at 50%.
Wow.
The man's the true Nigerian nightmare. I think Christian Okoye has officially bequeathed that name to Kamaru.
Well, you know what? I got nothing else to say, but welcome to the welcome, champ. Welcome. Rumble, young man, rumble. All right. In the main event of the evening, Junior Dos Santos defeated the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, via TKO at 158 in round 2. Man.
I love this fight.
It was great.
I love everything about it. This is, to me, what a heavyweight fight should be. Two people putting it all out on the line and it not going the distance. Lot of talk as to whether Derrick Lewis was trying to pull a rope-a-dope on the injury when he's firing some big shots after he appears to be hurt.
Well, yeah, let's kind of set that up though, because you know they're sitting there, they're fighting, and Junior Dos Santos does a spinning back kick, lands it beautifully right under the sternum of the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, and you see Derrick Lewis like grab his rib or grab him, you know, where the strike landed, and he bends over like he's in pain, and Junior Dos Santos responds to that as every fighter would. Right. And right as he's getting ready to come in and finish Derrick Lewis, Derrick throws this vicious uppercut
that would have put anyone out if it connected.
Right. So I mean, it came out of nowhere. I mean, I wish I still had the clip of the guy from Overwatch going rising uppercut, because that was the kind of thing it was, man. It was like Shahrukh, but he missed it, and you know, Lewis kept holding his stomach, his chest or whatever, where the strike landed. But you never knew if he was really hurt or if he was goading Dos Santos in to throw another bomb. Didn't matter, though.
It's hard to tell just because of the ferocity in which Lewis is throwing it. This is like a caged animal trying to get free. Like, he wanted to let the beast loose. Yes. But just could not move.
Right. So he makes it into the second round, and I don't know if he's gassed or if he's hurt. I didn't get to hear the audio of his corner. Maybe he gave them some type of indication as to whether or not he had a broken rib or something like that. But it didn't take long for Junior Dos Santos to go in for the kill, land some big punches, and then finished off with strikes, and the rest was history.
Indeed. Good fight, though.
It was a great fight, and once again, it's a heavyweight fight that went 2 rounds. As all heavyweight fights should.
Yep.
And this made me remember why I liked Junior Dos Santos. I don't know if you remember in the early days of the show, you know, I would talk about Demetrius Johnson was my number 1, Junior Dos Santos was my number 2. And after Junior Dos Santos kind of fell off, he got beat a couple of times, and he got, you know, not really suspended, but they kept him from fighting because they were investigating, you know,
his alleged
PED use, and they found out that it was, you know, a false positive, and so he's kind of fallen off for me. But him coming back, winning this fight, getting on the mic, and just being the jolly big guy that he is, reminded me how much I like him. So, you know, Tony Ferguson better watch out, because JDS is back, and I like that guy.
Guess who's back?
All right.
Back again. The end.
JD's back.
Tell a friend.
JD's back. JD's back. JD's back. JD's back.
We just did that.
We did that. All right. So let's go ahead and close the book on this one, put it back on the shelf, because this card is history. Let's go into our next segment, which is Finding the Angles.
Finding the Angles.
This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines that are making waves in the MMA world. There is really only one headline that's making waves, and it's a tidal wave, and that is Casey's favorite fighter, the notorious Conor McGregor. Got arrested in Miami. Got arrested in Miami for breaking a fan's phone. Basically, what I'm reading is that Conor McGregor reached like he was going to shake the guy's hand, knocked the guy's phone onto the ground, and then stomped it and crushed it. And he is now arrested.
Yeah, there's a couple different conflicting reports as to like Conor telling this guy to put his phone away first and all of this greatness. But for a guy who's built his whole career on trash talking and being a man of the people simultaneously, you just got to be prepared for stuff like this. And the reality is, why have an entourage, a security team, if they can't handle stuff like this for you? The guy's dumb. And for the thing that gets me most on this is how many people have called other thugs and all this other stuff, and yet we continue to give Conor a pass as if he can do no wrong. At a certain point, he's just got to grow up. And this can't be a surprise to him. He's Conor McGregor. He's the biggest combat sports athlete that there is. People are going to recognize him. He has no more anonymity. You got to learn how to handle these things better. Like, I don't feel bad for him even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I don't either. This is one of those things where I agree with you. You're Conor McGregor. This is what comes with the stardom. This is what comes with being, if you don't want to have to deal with fans, then don't be seen in public.
Yeah.
Do everything VIP, everything private, and never be seen in public. Otherwise, understand that you're going to have fans that are going to want to take pictures and things like that. If the fan is being obnoxious and you've been cordial and the guy is still being a jerk, that's why you have the freaking 42 people you brought with you to Brooklyn. You keep those guys around so that they're the ones who you bail those guys out.
Yep.
You got to keep your nose clean if you're the boss. You can't be the boss and the goon.
The thing that kills me here is it's hurting his future fight prospects at this point. Like,
is it?
If he still had that, well, I think that he's losing his star power.
Is
he?
You
can still pull these antics if you're the man who's winning and you're untouchable and you got God status. Like, he's got to string together some wins to earn that back, and I think he might slowly start to lose this fan base. Like, he's becoming a John Jones here.
I disagree.
You got too successful too fast.
I disagree. The thing is that he's got nothing to lose. He's suspended for 6 months, so he can't fight anyway. So what difference does it make? And him breaking a fan's phone, it's not like he can't repay the fan's phone with 3 phones. So, I mean,
he should have taken care of that, though, because the cost of phones these days makes it a felony.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. But, the thing is he's got the money to replace the phone. It keeps him in the headlines, and his fans are like, his fans. Let me just say it like this, just so we can be clear. Conor McGregor could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and he wouldn't lose a fan, if you know what I mean.
That's apropos in a way that I just don't love.
There you go. Listen, our fans know what I mean.
Yeah, it's real. And to a certain extent, capitalize on it, but you're going to lose your money. It's costing you way too much.
It's going to cost you more. It's going to cost him. The thing is that this is just a blip, but it's going to escalate. Those types of things that we saw him do in Brooklyn, they're going to keep happening, and something's going to catch up with him. It always does. And if it doesn't, then he's a lucky man. But the fact is that it's always going to catch up to those guys that think they're untouchable. And so we just have to sit and wait and say, you might have gotten away again this time, Mr. McGregor, but it's coming to get you. The hens are coming home to roost, or the chickens are coming home to roost, or whatever. It's going to happen. And if Conor McGregor doesn't change his perspective, it is going to continue to follow him. It's going to continue to plague him until his career cannot sustain it. So we just have to sit and wait.
The problem, though, is he is at that financial status where he's going to hire a big shot lawyer who will take care of it. They'll plead to a lesser charge. They'll settle the civil case outside, and we just kind of keep moving on. He's at that status where the judicial system works differently for him. And I'm not mad at that because one day I want to be that rich.
All right. So let's talk about another fighter, Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. This was going to be one of those Clash of the Titans. You have two basically chiseled, strong men.
Yeah, but
who were supposed to battle in the center of the octagon. And then the fight got called off, and we don't know why. Yoel Romero says he knows why. So let's go to the context. So UFC was supposed to book Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa, but Yoel Romero was already booked to be on a reality show. So when he got voted off, the reality show, the expectation was they were going to instantly book that fight, but instead they booked Jacare Souza. And so people were like, well, what happened to Paulo Costa? And so Yoel Romero's like, well, I think he got popped by USADA for PEDs. Now, Paulo Costa and his camp are like, nope, that's not what happened. But they're not telling us why he's not in that fight with Yoel Romero.
It's tricky because Yoel picked something that is so believable that a lot of people have been saying forever that, true or not, that's just still going to stick.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Paulo Costa, I mean, he's got muscles
chiseled from marble.
Yeah, he's got muscles for days. I mean, he basically is a Brazilian version of my body. But if it,
I wish we were doing video today.
And so, yeah. I mean, when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that guy does PEDs. He's got to.
100%.
But if he's clean, he's clean. It's just that we need an explanation. Why aren't you fighting Yoel Romero? I mean, I know why I wouldn't fight Yoel Romero.
It's really strange because he's been incredibly active on social media over the last several months.
Trying to pick that fight,
Yeah, well, for him to not address this, even though he's been public about everything else, even his refuting similar claims for the last year and a half, why not just shut this down immediately? It's a little bit worrisome, but at the same time, I feel like when others have popped on USADA, we all hear about it immediately. It doesn't come from your scheduled opponent.
Yeah, but yeah, and the other thing is that USADA now has this process where if you pop, they don't announce it until they're able to validate with other samples and other things like that. So just in case there's a false positive, they're not ruining a fighter.
JDS rule.
Yeah, it's kind of the JDS rule, or the war chief Barnett. Those guys had their careers ruined, or at least tarnished, when they weren't actually caught using a PED. Unlike other fighters who continue to pulse and carry metabolites.
Allegedly.
No, it's metabolites are there. But we look, listen, I digress.
Refuse to believe it.
I digress.
John Jones could stand out in the middle of the
Fifth
street,
Avenue.
shoot somebody, and I'd still be like, oh no, man. Oh no.
All right. Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall. So y'all talked about this in the previous episode that Mickey Gall got hammered by Diego Sanchez. And the thing was that was an unlikely outcome because Mickey Gall is younger. He's twice Diego Sanchez's size. And he's an up-and-coming fighter that has really seen a lot of success. But he gets hammered by Diego Sanchez, and people are like wondering why. Well, Mickey Gall provided the reason why. He was talking to Luke Thomas on the MMA Hour, and he said that my kidneys were failing. Before the fight, I didn't really know. I could feel, I guess, looking back, you could tell a couple of warning signs, like something was going on, but I didn't go into the fight thinking, F it, whatever, it's just kidneys. But then when I got into the fight, I was zapped right away. I rewatched the fight. I'm like slow motion. I remember struggling for balance, trying to stay on my feet. It was crazy. KC, when is the insanity about massive weight cuts going to stop?
It is crazy. There was another promotion the same week that had a fighter have to go to the hospital and almost died, was on life support for weight cut. And even with all the changes that UFC is trying to make with changing the weigh-in times and all that, fighters still aren't being safe in how they're cutting weight. And I don't know that there's an answer to it, because cutting weight is a legitimate strategy that people aren't going to stop doing. And it seems like no matter what rule you put in place, there's always going to be there's danger associated with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, part of the heritage of mixed martial arts comes from the wrestling discipline, and that's what you do. You cut weight, you weigh in at a light weight, and then you bulk back up and hammer everybody in that weight class. And it's a great strategy, and it gives you a competitive advantage. But at what cost? And that's the thing, is that we have to find a way to make sure that fighters aren't pushing their bodies to limits where they're going to be on life support or potentially die. And the fact is that the only way that you can do it is, in my opinion, is doing what they did for the powerlifting that you were telling me about, where you weigh out.
Yeah. I hate it, though, because, I've competed where you do the weigh outs, and it's it keeps you honest. It 100% keeps you honest, but you do lose a bit of that competitive edge because of how you have to truly manage your weight, and you can't have that last minute weight loss.
Right. But that keeps the fighters healthy. And
yeah.
If we're going to be truly #protect the fighters, it starts with the weight cut. If you're not going to be competitive at the weight that you're supposed to be, then guess what? This is not the career for you. If you're only competitive, if you're going to cut weight and fight little boys, then, I got a problem with that. Fight at the weight you're supposed to fight at.
Yeah, but it would cause so much chaos if they changed that rule. It would just, for the UFC to be the biggest promotion in MMA, to change that and do a way out, yes, it would be so much healthier for the fighters. But you're also looking at, like you said, the heritage comes from wrestling. These fighters would have to move up at a weight class that they're just not prepared for. Yeah, I don't think most of these guys could actually stay in the same weight class.
I don't think the UFC could unilaterally enforce that. It would have to be something at a regulatory level. So all of the state athletic commissions would have to get together and say, this is how we're going to manage weight cuts moving forward. It can't be the UFC, because UFC will just chase off all their fighters. So it has to be something that's outside of their control, which means Nevada, California, New York, some of these other state athletic commissions need to really create a coalition that addresses this problem, so that fighters can, be healthy, weigh the weight that they need to weigh, and then what we can see is normalization in the weight classes, so that a Darren Till ends up fighting at 185 or 205 instead of 170. You know what I'm saying? We start seeing that, okay, so perhaps, someone like Conor McGregor really needs to be fighting at 170 and not 155 or even 145 like he did before. And so what ends up happening is you get good fights, but it's fights with people who are right size for their body.
Yeah. Plus, I think you come in there less depleted, and your training camp focuses more on your skill versus making weight.
Right.
So we could see a lot better fights because you're not having depleted fighters on Saturday night.
All right. And speaking of Saturday night, let's get into the fight card. This is the fight card. This is where we look forward to the fights that are coming up this weekend. It seems that the UFC on ESPN, the hits don't stop. They have a fight every weekend. This weekend, UFC on ESPN Plus, Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal in the O2 Arena in London, the United Kingdom, Saturday, March 16th. We're going to talk about 4 of the fights on the card. The first fight of the night is Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Quinones. Volkan Ozdemir is back versus Dominic Reyes. That's going to be a brawl.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. I like this one because it makes up for the previous one where it's like, who?
Yeah, Dominic Reyes is 9-0, going on against Volkan Ozdemir, who recently fought for the light heavyweight championship versus Daniel Cormier, and then he kind of fought. Then he got beat by some Factory X guy, Cousin Anthony.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speak too highly on that because later on I'm also gonna bring up another fighter out of Factory X.
Oh man, okay. See, I'll let you. You can bring up Anthony Smith because tremendous respect for that dude. Plus, he's my cousin.
And he's got another fight scheduled.
Yes, we have to talk about that. You want to go ahead and announce that?
He is fighting Gustafsson.
Alexander Gustafsson.
Where are they fighting? They're fighting in Gustafsson's hood, right?
Yeah, which is Sweden.
Nailed it. So you definitely should have let me announce this one because I've nailed all the facts so far.
Yeah, you got it. But Volkan Ozdemir versus Dominic Reyes. This is going to be a great fight.
Solid.
We'll flash fight pick that one. Leon Edwards versus Gunny Nelson. This is Gunnar Nelson's out of the Conor McGregor's camp. Leon Edwards is chasing Darren Till, who's in the main event. I think this is also going to be a great fight. Let's flash pick that one. And then Darren Till.
Isn't Gunny fighting less out of Conor's camp these days and more back in Iceland?
Yeah. He is fighting more back in Iceland, but he is still associated with Conor's camp. Yeah. But Conor, because Conor is, way busy creating havoc, it's not. I don't strike me as
it's not ideal.
That's Gunny's scene.
Yeah.
Darren Till in the main event at home. Not really at home because he's from Liverpool, but Darren Till fighting in the UK versus Jorge Masvidal. This is actually going to be a great fight as well. Both of these guys are elite strikers. This is the fight that Darren Till wanted.
Look like Jorge's dad. Just so much bigger than Masvidal.
Yeah, to our point previously, but I think now this fight is happening at middleweight. It's not happening at welterweight.
Ah, interesting. Very good.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be better. But
I'm just waiting till lives up to his hype. Nothing.
No. I was wrong. I see what you did there. I was wrong. This is actually happening at welterweight. There was talk about Darren Till moving up to middleweight, but this is actually happening at welterweight. So, I'm excited about this fight because it's such a good competitive fight, and you've got Leon Edwards who really wants to fight Darren Till. Both of these guys are from the UK. Leon Edwards feels like Darren Till has gotten too much of the press, and Leon is kind of like the redheaded stepchild, even though he's a black dude. And
hey, black guys can be red-haired.
They can. It's just rare. And so Leon Edwards wants to fight Darren Till. But you know who else wants to fight Darren Till?
Everybody.
But you know who else really wants to fight Darren Till?
Nope.
Funky Ben Askren.
Really?
He wants that fight. He wants the winner of this fight. So we'll see what happens. But let's do some flash fight picks. Volkan Ozdemir versus Dominic Reyes. Who you got?
Shoot. I got to go Volkan here.
All right. I am going to go with Dominic Reyes. I think he's going to keep that 9-0 intact and go up to 10-0 versus Volkan Ozdemir. And I think this may be 3-0 for Volkan. Leon Edwards versus Gunny Nelson.
Ooh, I'm going Leon here.
That's a good call. I'm going Leon too. But it's that karate back and forth style that Conor and Gunnar Nelson employed that makes this an interesting fight. So Gunnar Nelson might be able to make this happen. He's got great jiu-jitsu as well. So I could see a potential submission, but I think Leon Edwards is going to keep this one going. And in the main event, Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal. Who you got?
Oh, I hate to say it, but I think Till wins this one. He's just too big of a guy.
Yeah, I think that there's only a few people who's going to give Darren Till trouble at 170, and it's not Jorge Masvidal. So I got Darren Till in this as well, and that's our show. So follow us on social media. On Instagram, you are.
I am at Push Pull Pray.
Yes, you are.
Turn me off. You started with Insta first.
Well, because Twitter is not so much anymore. I mean, I still do Twitter at CST Ryan, but more so now it's all about the Instagram. So I'm at Combat Sports Talk, and John, when he's here, is at Keys to Victory with the ES on Keys. But we got to get him actually posting stuff on Instagram. And yes, I am calling you out, John.
So you guys can see pictures of me getting beat up at Factory X as well. So
okay.
Always good to see that on my Insta.
Yes, that's what you need to do when you're sparring someone like we might know. What you have to do is you post it, but then record it and then only post it after he's fought, so that you don't give anybody any kind of weaknesses that Chris Camozzi might have had.
He's got no weaknesses.
At least you couldn't.
Speaking of no weaknesses, real quick. Ian Hinchman is going to be on the UFC London card, and the dude is moving up the ranks pretty quick there. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch.
All right. So you can find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Our favorite is Spotify, but you can also find us on Anchor.fm, iTunes, SoundCloud, the whole works. We've got merchandise on Amazon. I actually need to buy some new shirts, and you can find that on our website, combatsportstalk.com. Just click the merchandise link, and we've added a section for live new events. We've got UFC 235 that I have to publish tonight, so go out and look at it tomorrow.
Nice.
You ready? Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com, and Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For Casey Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.